In the drought-choked heart of 1872 Texas, where the land was as cracked as the people's spirits, a man named Eli Turner lived on the outskirts of Willow Creek, a town too small for comfort and too proud for change. Eli was a rancher, though some folks would have laughed to hear him called that. His fields were bare, his cattle thin, and his house barely standing. After his wife, Mary, passed from fever 2 years prior, Eli drifted into a kind of silent sorrow. No children. No help. Just the sound of wind blowing through the dry rafters and the weight of bills stacking higher than the hay he didn't have. To the town, Eli was a relic, a kind-hearted but broken man who'd soon sell his land or drink himself into the soil. No one expected him to stir the dust of the town square that blistering July afternoon. And yet, there he stood, beneath the scorching sun, coat faded, boots cracked, watching something that turned his stomach, a child auction. The war had ended nearly a decade ago, but some places never truly changed. These weren't auctions by law, but everyone knew what they really were, indentured service, they called it. Legal gray zones for desperate orphans. Poor children. Abandoned souls. Bought cheap and worked hard until they vanished into hard labor or early graves. The sheriff turned a blind eye. The townspeople looked away. That's when he stepped onto the stage, a 12-year-old boy with skin like burnished copper, bare feet blistered from the road, and a face that looked like it had forgotten how to smile. His name was Samuel. Strong for his age, the auctioneer bellowed, slapping the boy's back. Can work field or stable. Who'll start me at $5? Eli never meant to raise his hand. Not really. But something in the boy's eyes, empty, yes, but quietly defiant, hit Eli like a blow to the chest. It reminded him of Mary's gaze the day the doctor said she wouldn't make it. Quiet strength. Silent suffering. $5, Eli said, voice dry as dust. Gasps murmured through the crowd. Eli Turner? He couldn't even afford new boots. No other bids, the auctioneer called. Sold. And just like that, Eli had spent his last $5, on a boy. The walk home was silent. Samuel didn't ask where they were going, and Eli didn't offer. When they reached the ranch, the boy looked at the creaking barn, the weed-choked pasture, the sagging porch, and said nothing. Eli motioned to the barn. There's hay in the loft. Water pumps out back. I'll not chain you. You stay if you want. Run if you need. Samuel just nodded. That first week, they didn't speak more than a dozen words. Samuel rose with the sun and worked like a ghost, feeding chickens, mending fence posts, sweeping the porch. He never complained. Never cried. But he also never smiled. Eli began to notice things. Like how the boy never sat with his back to a door. How he flinched if someone raised their voice in the town store. How he folded his blanket just so, military tight, every morning. Something terrible had shaped him. But Eli didn't pry. He just made sure the boy had food, boots that fit, and silence when he needed it. Weeks turned into months. One night, while fixing a busted wagon wheel, Eli caught Samuel watching him. You want to learn? Eli asked. The boy nodded. So Eli taught him how to use tools, how to shoe a horse, how to find the cleanest well water. They repaired fences together. Planted seeds that may or may not grow. Shared quiet meals under a tin roof while crickets sang to the stars. And slowly, so slowly, it happened. Samuel laughed. Just once, after Eli slipped in the mud trying to catch a pig. But it was real. And it cracked Eli's hardened heart wide open. Then came the storm. Lightning tore across the sky like angry whips. Rain hammered the ground in sheets. Eli jolted awake to the smell of smoke. The barn was on fire. Flames licked the sky, devouring wood and hay. Eli ran, heart pounding, shouting Samuel's name. Through the chaos, he saw a small figure dragging water buckets, coughing from the smoke, refusing to back away. Together, they battled the blaze. By sunrise, the barn was a black skeleton, but the animals were safe, and so were they. Eli collapsed to his knees, shaking from exhaustion. "I ain't had nothing worth losing in a long time," he whispered. Samuel knelt beside him. "I was gonna run," he said, voice hoarse. "Back when you first brought me here. I figured it'd be the same as everywhere else." Eli didn't say anything. "But you didn't beat me. You didn't yell. You didn't own me. You just let me breathe." That night, Eli pulled out a dusty box from under his bed, Mary's old Bible, some saved coins, and a crumpled adoption form she once dreamed of filling. The next week, he walked Samuel into town. Straight to the courthouse. Paid the fee with what little he had left. "Name?" the clerk asked. "Samuel Turner," Eli said, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "He's my son now." People stared. Whispers bloomed like weeds. The town mayor confronted him days later with 2 deputies in tow. "We've heard reports. Harboring a slave. That child wasn't free." Eli stood on his porch, arms crossed, his son standing behind him. "You're wrong," Eli said firmly. "He's as free as me. And I'd die before I let you take him." The sheriff looked at the adoption papers. "Legal. Notarized. Let it be," he finally muttered. The mayor scoffed but turned away. And then, the unexpected happened. Folks began stopping by the ranch. First out of curiosity. Then out of respect. Old Joe brought lumber to rebuild the barn. Miss Hattie from the bakery sent pies. Even the mayor's own wife dropped off a bag of seeds with a quiet nod. Samuel built a new coop. Eli plowed his first real field in years. Together, they turned dust into life. What happened shocked the town, but not because of scandal. Because of love. One man gave a child a chance. One child gave that man a reason to live again. And that simple, selfless bond between a broken rancher and a lost boy stirred something forgotten in the hearts of the people, hope. In the end, the ranch didn't just grow crops. It grew a legend. Of kindness. Of second chances. Of choosing to care when it's easier not to. Because when the world turns cold, sometimes all it takes is one small act of humanity, to warm a town. And in Willow Creek, that act began with a man who bought a boy, not to own him, but to save him. And in doing so, saved himself.